Jupiter and Saturn aren't just massive, they're magnificent. From cracked ice hiding in an ocean, to six-sided storms, and even a tiny moon that's basically a nonstop erupting volcano, for two planets made mostly of gas, they've given us some of the most solid reasons to stay curious. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 bizarre discoveries on Jupiter and Saturn. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe with that notification bell. It truly helps the channel. And let us know what other space lists you'd like to see next. With all that said, let's go to infinity and beyond. Or at least as far as Saturn. 25. Europa's ocean. When NASA's Galileo spacecraft took high-resolution images of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, in the 90s, scientists noticed that the surface was covered in cracks, ridges, and what looked suspiciously like icebergs. Later, the Hubble Space Telescope found plumes of water vapor shooting into space, which pretty much sealed the deal. The ice on top of Europa's ocean is believed to be about 10 to 15 miles thick, and the ocean itself could hold twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined. It doesn't freeze because Jupiter's gravity keeps tugging and squeezing the moon, creating enough internal heat to keep the water liquid. NASA's Clipper is on course to reach Europa by 2030, where it'll make close to 50 flybys to study the ice shell, measure the depth and saltiness of its ocean, and look for signs of life. 24. Methane Rivers. In 2005, when the Huygens lander descended through Titan's thick orange clouds, no one knew what it would see. For years, Titan basically just looked like a fuzzy orange ball. Then Huygens hit the surface and showed us that the ground was solid, covered in channels, and dotted with lakes made out of liquid methane. Later, Cassini flew by and found even more. Titan has giant dunes made of frozen gunk that acts like sand, and it even has rain and seasons. Scientists have also discovered bright patches in its lakes that came and went, which could be giant bubbles. It's about negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit out there, much too cold for life, but the place almost works like a frozen copy of Earth. 23. Polar lakes and oceans. Methane rivers aren't the only crazy thing we've found on Titan. When Cassini made its final passes in 2017, its radar spotted something scientists couldn't quite explain. The moon's smaller lakes sat high on icy cliffs. Think bathtubs in the mountains, while its larger seas stretched out miles below in deep frozen basins. Some of those lakes were almost 300 feet deep and made almost entirely of methane, not the heavier hydrocarbons scientists expected. A few of them even disappeared between seasons, which means Titan's methane rain doesn't just fall and stay put. It soaks, drains, and seeps underground like a complete weather system. 22. Hot springs. Enceladus isn't much bigger than England, but it's hiding a full ocean under all its ice. Cassini discovered more than 100 geysers shooting water vapor and organic material into space from cracks near the moon's south pole. When the spacecraft flew through those plumes, it picked up hydrogen gas, salt, and tiny grains of silica, the exact same thing you'll find around hot springs here on Earth. Those materials told scientists that Enceladus's rocky core is reacting with seawater, heating it to nearly 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The ocean sits about 25 miles below the surface, salty and alkaline, warmed by Saturn's pull that constantly squeezes and flexes the moon's interior. The geysers also feed Saturn's E-ring with a steady spray of fresh ice and dust, which keeps it from fading away. 21. Lightning above the clouds. If thunderstorms on Earth make you nervous, well, Jupiter's are about to make you rethink what scary means. NASA's Juno spacecraft caught flashes of lightning high above the planet's clouds, in a place where lightning shouldn't exist at all. The real story is less magic and more chemistry, but let's not spoil the drama. Those upper clouds aren't made of water like ours. They're a slushy mix of ammonia and ice. Somehow, that frozen blend still manages to build up enough electrical charge to spark. Scientists call it shallow lightning, and each flash can carry immense energy. Naturally, not every single storm on Jupiter works that way, but the ones that do are giving us completely new insights about what the weather can do on gas giants. 20. Saturn's disappearing rings. Saturn is famous for its rings. I mean, Beyoncé even made an entire song about it. But a lot of people don't know that they're actually made up of mostly water, ice, dust, and rocky debris. They're over 170,000 miles wide, but only about 30 feet thick in some places. Scientists have suspected that bits of the planet's rings might be falling inward for years, but Cassini measured a literal downpour, about 22,000 pounds of material per second raining from the rings into Saturn's atmosphere. That rain isn't just water ice. It's a mix of hydrogen, silicates, and organic molecules like propane and butane. Cassini's gear even picked up the ring dust as it burned in Saturn's upper atmosphere, showing that it's falling non-stop. So the rings will, in all probability, be completely gone in 100 million years or so. So make sure you look at them now, time's ticking. 19. The propellers. I've got something else I bet you didn't know. Saturn's rings often have little propellers. In fact, scientists have found hundreds of them. The tiny shapes usually appear in the planet's A ring, where small hidden moonlets, each no bigger than a city block, pull at the ice around them. They don't have enough mass to clear full gaps like Saturn's larger moons, so they leave trails behind, sort of like airplane wakes frozen in orbit. Some of these patterns can span hundreds of miles, and the most famous ones even have names like Earhart. What you're seeing when you look at them is basically that pull stirring up waves of ice that can stretch for miles in both directions. 18. 274 moons. When the Cassini mission kicked off in 2004, Saturn, according to everyone here on Earth anyway, had 20 moons. By the time the mission was over, that number had jumped up by dozens, as scientists came across new tiny moonlets like Methane, Pallene, Daphnis, and Aegeon hitting in and around the rings. Those discoveries kicked off a wave of follow-up studies that kept adding to the count. In 2025, astronomers using the Canada-France-Hawaii telescope discovered another 128 of them. They orbit far from Saturn in looping backwards paths and are believed to be fragments of larger moons that got shattered by ancient collisions. 17. Jupiter's weird hail. When NASA's Juno spacecraft sent back readings of ammonia missing from Jupiter's upper atmosphere, scientists couldn't figure out where it went. Then, researchers at UC Berkeley proved that the planet makes its own kind of hail with a mix of water and ammonia together. They call them mushballs. They form about 30 to 40 miles beneath the clouds, where strong updrafts lift the crystals high enough up to meet with ammonia gas. The ammonia then acts like antifreeze, melting the ice into a slush that freezes again into heavy balls encased in ice. Those mush balls grow as they fall, plunging hundreds of miles into the atmosphere while dragging ammonia and water with them. When they finally melt, the chemicals are released deep below, which explains why Juno found the upper layers strangely empty. 16. A perfect hexagon storm. Saturn's got a storm with a six-sided jet stream that's almost 300 miles wide. The Voyager probes first spotted it in the early 80s, and decades later, Cassini got close enough to film it in incredible detail. Winds inside this hexagon reach hundreds of miles per hour, and it spins in perfect rhythm with Saturn's rotation. Scientists still don't fully understand exactly how it all gets together and keeps its shape, but one theory says that the jet stream in Saturn's upper atmosphere creates a standing wave that locks itself into six corners when the timing and turbulence line up just right. They even think the storm extends thousands of miles below the clouds. 15. A Cosmic Yin-Yang. Saturn's moon, Iapetus, has a side that is pitch black, and one that is bright white. The dark side, called Cassini Regio, is covered in dust from another moon named Phoebe. Since Iapetus always faces the same way as it orbits, that front side keeps running into Phoebe's debris, scooping up more grime every time it goes around. The rest just snowballed. The dark surface soaked up sunlight and became warmer, which melted and evaporated the ice underneath. That water vapor drifted to the colder side and froze again, making it even whiter. So now, one half keeps getting darker, and the other keeps getting whiter. 14. Ganymede has a magnetic field. That might not sound like much, but it's huge. Moons don't usually make magnetism. Planets do. And yet Ganymede's field is so strong that it even creates its own tiny magnetosphere inside Jupiter's much bigger one. It's also the reason Ganymede comes with its own pretty auras around the poles, kind of like mini northern lights. And they've actually ended up giving away more than just a light show. It's still the only moon in our solar system known to have its own magnetic field. 13. Ganymede's other secret. It could have an ocean, and a weird one at that. Those auroras I just mentioned are moving, and that movement only makes sense if something deep below it is pulling on the field. But this is where the story gets good. The models show that Ganymede could have multiple layers of water and ice stacked together to make a giant frozen sandwich. Unlike Europa's single global sea, Ganymede's ocean may sit between sheets of ice with denser, saltier water near the bottom. Some studies even suggest there could be several oceans, separated by layers of frozen ice stretching hundreds of miles down. That means Ganymede could be a layered world made up of ice, water, more ice, and a rocky core with its own magnetic field. 12. The 300-mile deep storm. Okay, so I'm sure you've all seen Jupiter's Great Red Spot. If you haven't, this is what it looks like. It's so big that the Earth could fit inside it, and that's not even its most impressive feature. NASA's Juno spacecraft discovered that this thing runs about 300 miles deep, roughly 40 times deeper than the Mariana Trench. That depth keeps feeding the storm's energy and explains why it hasn't run out of steam in more than 300 years. What's even stranger is that while the Great Red Spot itself is deep, the winds around it stretch down even further, down to nearly 2,000 miles below the clouds. Scientists aren't even sure what keeps it alive, but they know it's shrinking in width while holding its depth. 11. Jupiter's missing core. We've also discovered that Jupiter's center isn't solid at all. Instead of a clear boundary between the core and the rest of the planet, heavy elements like rock and metal are mixed right into the surrounding hydrogen. It's as if the core started to dissolve and spread out. The finding has upended nearly every model we had for how gas giants form. If Jupiter's core is smeared out, it could mean the planet grew through slow chaotic mixing rather than a clean buildup around a solid center. Some scientists even think a massive early collision could have stirred things up and left it in this state. 10. The Pac-Man hotspots. Can I show you another great picture? There it is. The two Pac-Men. Saturn's moons, Mimas and Tethys, really do have giant Pac-Man shaped hotspots across their surfaces. Cassini's infrared camera picked them up glowing in thermal images, with one side warmer and the other colder, just like Pac-Man's open mouth. As the moons orbit Saturn, their leading sides get bombarded by charged particles trapped inside the planet's magnetic field. That radiation changes the surface ice, making it harder and smoother so it heats and cools differently than the rest. The result is a heat map shaped like Pac-Man. Wow, 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 wow. No, wait. That sounds more like a tauntaun from Star Wars. 9. Atlas looks like a flying saucer. No. No. Before you get worked up, I am not about to talk about Three-Eye Atlas, but rather about Saturn's moon Atlas. But please, feel free to talk all about the other one in the comments. Actually, well, okay, wait. They're both kind of weirdly shaped, right? Anyway, this Atlas is a small disc-shaped moon orbiting just outside Saturn's A-ring, and it looks very much like Hollywood's idea of a flying saucer. When Cassini flew past it in 2017, it got within 7,000 miles and sent back the clearest photos ever taken. It's only about 19 miles across, but it has a smooth ridge that scientists think formed as Atlas swept up ice and dust from Saturn's rings, almost like a snowball rolling through powder. 8. Io's never-ending eruptions. The first time Voyager got a close look at Io, everyone thought the cameras were malfunctioning. The moon was erupting. Massive plumes of sulfur shot hundreds of miles into space, and bright rivers of lava ran across the surface. Jupiter's gravity is constantly squeezing and heating up the inside, melting rock into magma. With nowhere else to go, that heat escapes through thousands of volcanoes. The process is so intense that it keeps wiping the surface clean. In fact, it never looks the same way twice, since fresh lava keeps covering the craters again and again. 7. Plate tectonics. Enceladus might be small, it's only about 300 miles wide, but it's moving its surface just like the Earth does. Cassini's data has exposed long cracks near the South Pole, which researchers now call tiger stripes that stretch and slide apart over time. When the ice pulls apart, it opens pathways from the ocean below, letting water vapor and ice shoot into space. That's where the famous plumes come from. Saturn's pull stretches and squeezes the little moon over and over, and that constant flexing creates just enough warmth to stop the ocean from freezing solid. 6. Things we can't explain. Yet. Saturn already had one of the weirdest weather systems in the solar system. Remember that six-sided hurricane? But the James Webb Space Telescope just made it weirder. Using its near-infrared spectrograph, JWST has discovered long chains of dark, bead-like patches drifting above the Hexagon in Saturn's upper atmosphere. These beads have shown up hundreds of miles above the clouds, in a layer that's filled with charged hydrogen molecules that help to drive the planet's auroras. Webb has also picked up a lopsided star-shaped pattern growing in the stratosphere just below it, and strangely enough, the two seem to line up. Yep, no one knows if that's a coincidence or if the layers are actually connected. 5. The Great Shaper. When Jupiter formed, it changed everything around it. The early solar system was full of gas and dust spiraling towards the sun, and most of it should have been gone in no time. But as Jupiter grew, its gravity carved ripples through the disorder, pushing some material out and trapping the rest in rings. Supercomputer models from Rice University show that those ripples acted like cosmic speed bumps, slowing things down just enough for rocky planets like Earth, Venus, and Mars to take shape. It's the reason the inner solar system even exists. Its size and gravity literally shaped where planets could form, how big they could grow, and kept their orbits steady. So, in a very real way, Jupiter built the neighborhood we live in. 4. Jupiter's rings. Jupiter's rings don't get much attention, mainly because they're too hard to see. They're fuzzy, thin, and made of dust instead of ice, so they don't reflect much light. NASA's Galileo spacecraft found that the dust comes from Jupiter's small inner moons, Metis, Adrastea, Amalthea, and Thebe. When tiny meteoroids hit those moons, they shoot off fine grains that drift into space and get caught in Jupiter's gravity. Over time, that debris formed a central ring and two gossamer rings that extend far beyond it. The outermost ring is actually two overlapping layers, each fed by a different moon. It's not the shiny kind we're used to seeing when we look at pictures of Saturn, but more like a smoky halo that only shows up when the light hits it just right. And nothing like the actual halo rings. Maybe someday. Although, I don't want them to be weapons that wipe out the entire galaxy. 3. A wobbling atmosphere. After 13 years of looking at data, we now know that Titan's whole atmosphere dips and changes with the seasons, almost as if it's sliding over the moon rather than being locked onto it. Think off-balance gyroscope, if that gives you a better picture. The axis of that tilt even seems to stay fixed in space instead of following the Sun or Saturn, which makes the whole thing even stranger. Some scientists think that a big event in Titan's past might have knocked it off kilter, or that its deep ocean could have something to do with it. But for now, it's all speculation. 2. A brand new kind of aurora. You've seen the northern lights, right? Now on Jupiter, you wouldn't see a thing, even though they're there. Jupiter's auroras glow in ultraviolet and infrared, and when Juno flew over its north pole, it found a never-before-seen plasma wave. Because Jupiter's magnetic field is insanely strong and the gas around its poles is so thin, the plasma waves move at incredibly low frequencies, nothing like what we see here. It's the first time we've caught anything like it, and it might explain how Jupiter's auroras stretch across a whole pole instead of making neat little ovals like ours. 1. Polygonal polar cyclones. Finally, Jupiter not only has brand new auroras at the poles, but it also comes with clusters of giant cyclones. The one at the North Pole has 8 others circling around it, and in the south, 6 of them have made up a hexagon, and they're almost as pretty as the ones on Saturn. Each of these storms are thousands of miles wide. NASA has imaged them in every way possible, from microwave to visible and ultraviolet light, which allowed scientists to track the storms through multiple layers of Jupiter's atmosphere. And they've proven to be very stubborn. They keep their shapes, but also drift slowly around their set positions and tend to slide west over time. No one would ever have predicted that planets could host neat polygons of cyclones stacked so perfectly. Still, now that we have years of data, we know they're stable features of Jupiter's weather, and they're teaching us how giant planet atmospheres actually organize themselves. Alright, that's all I got for you today. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. Seriously, you are the reason I get to keep doing this. And if you'd like to spend even more time here, well, I've got a related video, 25 mind-blowing facts about life, space, and everything in between. It's got everything from the fact that we're now trying to see how jumping mice can save astronauts' knees, and that they're making food out of astronauts' breath. Go watch it. Trust me, you will love it. Again, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you again next time. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. See ya.